And now we're back to, magically, here's Mark.
Magically.
Who probably can make the teleprompter work. I don't know.
Well, let's see if I can figure it out. Let's start by welcoming West Coast viewers to the third and final hour of the Family of Choice telecast, Webcast. And if you stuck with us from the start, thank you. It is
bless you. And
it's I think an innovative idea, and I'm not a paid spokesmodel, as you can tell.
Well, if this is an innovative idea, we probably have not sold it.
You're probably right, but it's your virtual national book tour, and the occasion is the 18th and final Burke novel, Another Life.
And the other occasion is that it's the middle of damn January, and anyone who would do a book tour this time of year probably needs medication. And I really appreciate people coming to my book events, and I don't think it would be showing a lot of appreciation to ask you to come out. And we're here in Chicago, and we don't even know if we're going to physically be able to leave this building when this is done. So I can't imagine people cruising down to their local independent bookstore to see me.
That's exactly right. On the way here, I lost the feeling in my face. So if you're from Chicago or Spokane or Asbag, South Carolina,
or Montreal or South Dakota or, any damn place that's not in the South, and even some of those places are getting hit, right?
Andrew Vachss will answer your questions. And I'm Mark Ronner from the Seattle Times. Let's reintroduce everybody here. Let's just get back to the questions.
Yeah, wait. Let's be fair. We started this a couple of hours ago, okay? We're trying to hit all the time zones. Mark did the whole East Coast section. Mike McNamara and Mike Black suffered through a teleprompter that has some grudge against us through the whole Midwest, Rocky Mountain thing. Mark's taking us home on the West Coast. This is the end. If you've hung in, you've only got another hour to go.
No, and we've got a teleprompter that is located above an Indian burial mound, in case you were wondering. Let's go to a question from someone whose name is, and I'm guessing this isn't their birth name, Fergalicious. Do you plan to write more comics? Any current comics you're reading or favorites?
Okay. I don't plan to write any comics. However, I'm going to collaborate with Frank Caruso on this project. I'm going to collaborate with Jeff Darrow on a novelization, I guess you'd call it, of my favorite comic, which is Shaolin Cowboy. But I want to make it very clear that I consider it my honor to work with Frank Caruso and my honor to work with Jeff Darrow. So when I say collaboration, I'm just jumping on a horse that's already running on its own real good.
Now, I understand Darrow has drawn a pansy drawn a pansy picture for you.
Jeff, when I sign my name, there's a chop that's put over my name to authenticate it. That chop, which is of my pit bull Honey, was drawn by Jeff. And to celebrate this, to go out, Jeff actually did this beautiful rendering of Pansy, who we called Gussie, in real life, when she was our dog.
If you have a picture of the drawing of the dog we can show on screen.
Go for it.
Well, while they're showing that, we'll go to a question from Tiffany from Oakland. Aside from Pansy, I think Flood was Burke's greatest love, even more so than Wolf, the prosecutor. Who do you think was his greatest love throughout the series?
It's always been Wolf. Wolf's the dark star that he can't find and connect with. But the connection that he had with other women at other times was absolutely real and not fraudulent in any way. I don't know how you rank women. It seems something like some guy who, reads Playboy with one hand would do. But it isn't for me. The different women have different characters and characteristics. Wolf was always meant to be that great love that Burke realized he could never, ever have. Because being what he was would always barrier him off. The other women in his life are on his side of the barrier, sometimes only temporarily. But that was the deal. The only time he ever tried to go across the barrier was for Wolf, and he didn't succeed.
Reading the last book, though, Another Life, it occurred to me, okay, this is his one great unrequited love, and at some point he kind of got close to it.
He did.
Can you sum up what happened, where it went wrong?
He blew it. I mean,
What did
it's
he do?
as simple as that. He made promises to her that he broke. And it's not something you can do to a woman of that quality. You can't do it. Or to a man of that quality. You can't do it. You can't break a promise. He promised not to do certain things. Whether he meant to keep the promise or not, only he knows. But there's no question he broke it, like dropping a boulder on a little piece of glass. He crushed it. Went way over the line, did some really ugly things, and forever separated himself from any chance to be with Wolf when he did it.
Okay, here's another question from Blondie in L.A. Burke has always seemed rather detached when it comes to sex, calmly going along with his various girlfriends' unusual requests, from gags to cuffs to pillowcases. Nothing seems to bother him except one thing. How is it that in 18 books and 20-odd years, Burke has never once had the inclination to perform oral sex? What's the deal?
I think that's probably a matter of taste, right?
Well, where do you want me to go with that?
I'm done with it.
Okay, let's go to the next question. This is from David Heckler.
Full disclosure, David Heckler is my great friend. He is the journalist who wrote the book, The Battle and the Backlash. And he's the journalist who actually was covering a trial to whom I gave that writing manuscript in a drawer that created my entire career.
Oh.
So to pretend this is an unbiased question, I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
I haven't seen it, but if it's from David, it'll be a journalist question. So go ahead, read it.
Okay, this is different from Blondie from L.A. Did you read the...
Well, Blondie from L.A.'s got a different issue.
Yeah, but we're going to find that out.
Husband, probably the back of his neck probably hurts by now.
David wants to know, did you read about the Harvard study just out that apparently found kids aren't in danger of being solicited for sex on the internet? Your reaction? You want to elaborate on that? Or
No,
should we move
I
on?
think it speaks for itself. There's a Harvard study that says kids are not in danger of being solicited for sex on the internet. Why? Because all the kids on the internet are working for Dateline or what? I mean, how could that even possibly be true? Since I myself know of numerous cases that exactly that scenario played out. I don't know what this Harvard study was. I don't know who funded it. And I admit to total ignorance of it. But as a non-academic, I can tell you I'm profoundly unimpressed.
Okay. Here's a question from my hometown of Spokane from Milt.
You admit to being from Spokane?
I don't have a mullet. I have a full set of adult teeth, and I've never driven a truck. Let's move on.
All right.
Burke changed
Mark
dramatically.
Furman's from there, right?
What?
Mark Furman's from there, right?
No, Mark Furman is on the radio in Idaho, but the people in Spokane listen to him.
Okay. I
want
got nothing else to say.
Yeah, okay.
You lose, go.
Burke changed dramatically from Flood to Bluebell. Why the change?
Why did it change? Burke did not change dramatically from Flood to Bluebell. I mean, that's your opinion, and you're entitled to it. I wouldn't argue with it. The one thing I will agree with you is, and I admitted this earlier, but I know people are tuning in at different times. Flood was this humongous manuscript. It was huge because I thought I'd only get the one book published ever, and I was lucky to get that. So there's a lot more in there than I would typically have in a book. The style is much less skeletal than my natural style. So if that's the change that you're picking up on, that's the reason. It isn't Burke changing. It's me changing the way I'm presenting it. That's all.
Yeah, reading a bunch of your stuff in a row, there's clearly an evolution in your writing, and not just between the first and second book. I mean, do you believe you were fully formed close to out of the gate as a writer?
No, I think I got better at it the same way a carpenter would get better at doing something for 20 years. And, I mean, I think it's a craft, and I think I have gotten better at it, but I can't point to any conferences I attended or any, seminars I took or anything like that. I just kept working at it. And I've always tried to make the writing as much like my legal writing as possible. Flab is not rewarded. They don't call them briefs for nothing. A loquacious lawyer may be funny on TV, but he's not effective. You got it right there, like that. So that's what I pursue when I'm writing. And the more I've been doing it, the better I've gotten at it. You write a New York Times op-ed and they tell you you got 907 words, they're not kidding around. I mean, you give them 905, that's okay, but 909, so you really do learn to trim. And that's essentially the way I write. I write the book, type, take out the scalpel.
Sure.
And then what's next?
There are points where I read some of these where it's almost like it's encoded. It's so densely put together.
I know, but it's really a conscious choice. And I understand some people really like it and some people really don't. And,
all right, let's...
I have no nasty words for those who don't like it. And, it's your choice. What I don't get is how someone can say, this is the 18th straight book of yours that has sucked. I've read every one of them, and I can tell you, each one's been worse than the previous one. The question, why you keep reading them, never seems to be addressed. So I
a
don't know what
certain
to say.
subset of your readers are masochists.
Now, a subset of my readers are, I shouldn't even go there. Never mind.
Well, let's get in as many questions as we can. The next one's from writer Sarah Byam. She wants to know, when your parents die, Social Security covers you through the delicate post-teenage years. Needed to go to college or learn a trade.
Really?
When you are a ward of the state, because your parents couldn't be trusted to parent you, they drop you like a hot rock when you turn 18, whether you've graduated from high school or not. Is anyone paying attention to this little chasm that eats up so many young people who have no guidance into childhood?
It's a wonderful point. And why don't you ask Barack Obama? Why don't you ask your senator or your congressman? I think you're right on and deadly with that point. And if that constituency, the one you just described, went like this and said, we'll give our vote collectively, every damn one of us, to the person who puts that program in effect, you'd have to get out of the way to be a politician stampede. The answer to your question is that this is not a country where justice is the rule. It's a country where power is the rule. We're somewhat ameliorated that effect. So, it's not a fascist country. You get to vote, you get to do certain things. But the bottom line is Jack Abramoff is not in jail for sticking up banks. And if you don't know what that means, if someone has to decode that sentence for you, then you need to do a lot of reading about politics to understand how your question could truly be answered. Not by platitudes, not on a talk show, but by specific legislation addressing the exact issue you pointed out, which is a solid and righteous issue.
The next question's from Marie. She wants to know, how do we protect children who are getting sexually molested and hurt in their own home?
You protect them when you discover it. You can't surveil people's homes. But there's all kinds of alleged fail-safes along the way. There's teachers, there's coaches, there's religious counselors, there's guidance people. And everyone's always telling me how the kid fell through the cracks. And I'm thinking of cracks like the size of, the Grand Coulee Dam or something, because so many kids seem to fall through that same crack. You can't even talk about protecting children in their homes until you know this is going on. Once you know, that's when a genuine child protective system should kick into effect. We don't have one in this country. It's not a political priority in this country. Until it is, you won't have, period.
All right, John from Scotland wants to know, will Burke or any of his family appear anywhere else? Movie, graphic novel, etc.?
No. I turned down offers to put Burke in other print media. There's never even been a Burke short story. If you're talking about movies, who the hell knows? Things get optioned all the time. As we sit here, I've got several properties optioned. Are they going to make a movie? If past history is any indication, no. Are they going to continue optioning them? Hell yes. So I can't honestly talk about movies, but I can say definitively Burke's not going to reappear in another form. I don't see how it could be done. A comic book, by its just sort of general nature, is a skeletonized story. And if you're going to tell a story now that in print would run 5,000 pages. I would like to see the comic do it, but I don't imagine. I can't even envision it, and I don't expect that it would happen.
Your disgust always seemed just about palpable to me that the most real thing to people is movies.
I am disgusted with that. How anybody could use movies as a reality reference not only sickens me, but it scares the hell out of me. It's like when we were talking about the bad seed before, remember? Mm-hmm. You know, if movies are your truth, and they are, let's not kid each other, okay? Because people have written reviews of my books and literally said, I've seen 1,000 crime movies. I never saw anything like this, so I'm making it up. It's movies that gave us this way to hold a semi-automatic weapon. It's movies that told us you can hit somebody in the head hard with a blunt object, and they'll be all right. They'll be unconscious for a little bit, but that's okay. Of course I'm disgusted with it because too many people take it to be real.
Sure, but I don't just mean as somebody's ultimate test of reality, their standard for measuring reality, but I mean as the test of what something is worth.
That's true, too.
As if the books...
Oh, no, that's right. That's right. That's a good point. People will say, listen, if your books are so good, how come they're not movies?
Exactly.
And they'll be able to justifiably point to fetid piles of crap that have been made into movies. Since mine hasn't, it must obviously rank below that. I really can't relate to that reasoning chain because it's not reasoning. But there's a discussion, of course. It's a ridiculous way to measure the worth of anything, not just my books, anybody's.
Let's hear from Don. He wants to say, thanks for Burke and all the series has done to bring light to the darkness. Speaking in terms of the arc of the characters, did the events of another life prompt you to end it? Or did you say, this is it, I'm ending it, and then write the story?
The latter, Don. I said this is it. It's something I've been foreshadowing for a while. People have matured in the book to a point where the children have to go. That's the point to end it. That's why I did it. So malice aforethought. It didn't just happen to me. I sat down to write the last Burke novel.
Christopher from Portland. Although I am an admirer of all your novels, I often find your occasional autobiographical. English now. We're going to do English now.
Yeah. We could always get Mike back here. We're having problems with
yeah, we might need to. Scroll back down. Let's take another crack at this one. Although...
See, if we had a director now, he would have gone already, so...
You're not armed, are you?
No, not... well, they are.
Okay, we're going to try this one more time, and then I'm just going to lie down on the floor.
Okay.
Although I am an admirer of all your novels, I often find your occasional autobiographical or nonfiction essay more insightful and inspiring. I'm wondering if you ever consider writing a full-length autobiography. Your wife's incredible memoir was life-changing for me, and I would love to read a similar book from you.
I couldn't do it. I absolutely don't know how I could write an autobiography. There's no way to do it without putting people's privacy in public view. How could I do it? How could I say, people write their own biographies and they talk about who they slept with. You know, how could I do something like that? How could I talk about crimes people have committed? How could I talk? Most of my life was not lived by myself. So I'd be violating other people's privacy in a really serious way to actually write such a thing. You'll never see an autobiography that I wrote, not a full-length thing. Brief little flashes, sure, but from beginning to end, it couldn't be done.
Do you know of people who have attempted to write biographies?
Of themselves?
Of you.
Well, I know people who've asked, and people who, well, publishing houses have offered money to have one of their people write my life story. All I have to do is sit down and tell it to them.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's too absurd to even consider. The only people who know my life are people who are in my life. And that's the way it's going to be. And after I'm gone, none of them are going to write my story either. I promise you that.
All right, David C. from Osaka asks, it would be fair to say that Burke is an analog for Mr. Vachss, but having read the Burke novels repeatedly over the last 2 decades, I've always wondered, Is there a real-world counterpart to Wesley? My thanks to Mr. Vachss for producing such a meaningful narrative over the years. I hope Burke finds rest.
I don't know if, what's this guy's name?
David?
Can we go back a little bit?
David C. from Osaka.
David C? Okay. David, I don't know if you read the books in Japanese or in English. And I'm not saying that to be facetious. I've been told that some of the translations in various languages of my books at various times has deviated somewhat from the English version. But I can easily answer your question about Wesley. Yeah, I sure did meet somebody exactly like Wesley. A non-human creature that got paid money to take lives and didn't get any thrill out of it. I mean, it wasn't any spree killer or, freakish fool who kept a diary or anything like that. But it was all gone. I mean, his insides are completely gone. And for him, killing would be like for you turning in a story on time. I mean, you don't want to be late with a story because a journalist, you have a commitment. This guy wouldn't want to miss. But really more for that reason than anything else.
Okay. Somebody named Spider says, Max the Silent is a large, mute Korean sidekick.
He's none of that. Okay? He's not Korean, he's Tibetan. Large is in your mind, never been described as large. He's wide, he's not particularly tall, and he's not just mute, he's deaf. He's profoundly deaf. The fact is that the deafness was caused by a physical attack when he was a child. He took a vow never to speak. He hasn't spoken in so long. Nobody knows at this point whether he could or not. But deafness is what characterizes Max, not muteness, because his communication skills are superb.
Right. Well, I'm going to read the rest of the question
Sure.
anyhow. Odd Job from the James Bond novels is a large, mute Korean henchman. Coincidence?
Give me a break.
Okay, next question.
Yeah, there's a coincidence. My guy was not large, not mute, not Korean, and not a henchman. Nor did he have a bowler.
You've never had him decapitate somebody with a hat.
No. All I have to say to you, pal, are you serious? Next.
GW from Seattle. Let's move on to the next question.
Hold it. Bring it back. Let me see it here. Back. No. Let me see the question that he wouldn't read.
You can read that?
GW from Seattle. Is your very attractive moderator single? Oh, look at that.
How about that?
I've been on television 150, 200, 300 times. No one ever asked me that question.
Well, let's make this about you and not about me. And just.
Are you sure? Now, who is this GW person? And, there was no gender given either, so I wouldn't start, celebrating.
No. Are we?
So let's just answer the damn question. Now let's get on with the show.
Yes, and Josh Nicholson wants to know, Pansy, what do you think can be done to overcome the almost overwhelming apathy? This is totally throwing me off my game. The almost overwhelming apathy there seems to be about child welfare, child advocacy, and the general public. Everyone I try to get the point across to is appalled, but not many seem to actually do anything.
Amen, brother. I mean, that's the reality. People who work themselves up into a nice video position to talk about, there's a human whose name will not come out of my lips, who can make a living being professionally outraged at the horrors of any particular crime of the week. Court TV, for a long time, was all Scott Peterson all the time.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't outrage. This is a paycheck. What people can do is why there's an organization called Protect. And here's my question to you. Just hit protect.org on your computer. Spend 10, 15 minutes reading. And tell me, after that, if you still think there's nothing people can do, who are genuinely angry. If you're talking about the average Starbucks guru who knows everything, you're expecting too much. You're really expecting too much. Remember, my challenge to everybody about Protect is, to join, you'd have to give up dinner and a movie once a year. For some people, that would be like an amputation. So between the foodies and the movie guys, it seems to eliminate huge amounts of people between certain ages. That's their choice. That's their choice. And I'm not saying you have to respect their choice, but their choice doesn't have to rule you.
All right, Holly from the Zero List. So many children of The Secret grow up to be basically good people.
It's true.
But they're alone and worry of relationships. Mm-hmm. How can these people create or find a family of choice as Burke did?
You know what? There's no formula. There's no formula. It's, you know how dogs can hear a whistle that humans can't? Well, children of Secret really seem to be able to find each other in the dark. I mean, without looking, without something on Craigslist, without some chat room, they seem to find each other. I don't know how they do it because each story is different, but I swear to you it can be done. I absolutely swear to you it can be done, and what I guarantee is that if you stop trying, you won't succeed. I can't give you some Oprah-ism about all you have to do is, and everything will be cool. But I can tell you, for real, you're not alone. You're absolutely not alone. And if you are careful, you don't put your business out there in the street, you'll know another one when you encounter it. Without any secret handshake, no Masonic symbols, you'll know.
Chris, with 2 S's, wants to know, in your opinion, besides joining and supporting Protect, what is the single most worthwhile thing a person can do to protect children?
Really, be a parent is the single most worthwhile thing you could do to protect children, because that's where our species has gone nuts. Really, if you think about it, what other species could have gone on this long continuously failing to protect its own young? It just wouldn't work. Wolves, detective literature romanticizes the lone wolf. A lone wolf is in fact an exile. He's been kicked out of the pack. If a wolf gets hydrophobia and starts foaming at the mouth, the other wolves do not say, Lobo has issues. They kill him or he leaves. So the most important thing you can be is a real parent, which means your child will give off this aura. I'm not joking, and I'm not playing. Predatory pedophiles can smell an attachment disordered child that you can't smell. They can look at a daycare center and can see the unbonded child. If you're a parent and you're really bonded to your child in a true way, the predator, with the choice of victims, because they do have choices of victims, will pass on your kid because they'll literally be able to smell the consequences. You see? Be that parent is the most single important thing you could do with your life, in my opinion.
This one's from Cortland Funk. Now that the Burke series is done, do you ever see yourself returning to Ghost or perhaps a nonfiction book like your wife's Sex Crimes?
Yes, no. I certainly can see myself returning to a nonfiction book because we still want that juvenile institution built and run the way Antoinette has designed it, and I've kind of got the framework for it. And my brother, Dr. Joel Davoskin, who's the best forensic psychologist in America, has helped enormously with the design. We believe we could build such a place. So, yeah, nonfiction, I mean, are the op-ed pieces nonfiction? Are the articles nonfiction? Are the essays nonfiction? Hell yes. So, yeah, I'll continue with that. But in terms of me writing that autobiography, forget it. It's not going to happen.
All right, the next question is from Max from Vancouver, BC, Canada. How do you deal with people who approach you with a screenplay, TV series, and film ideas? With your approved narration and very careful guidance, you might actually reach a wider audience, this guy says.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. Nobody approaches me with that because I don't want to be approached with it. I'm not interested in it. I don't want to see it. And it's so bad that we literally don't give out the office fax number anymore. People would fax the damn screenplays. And then call up the next day and say, have you read it yet? I'm not interested in being sued. I know what kind of people lawyers are. So I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to read any unsolicited material ever in life. And I literally have cutouts. So I don't know my own mail. If somebody sees an unsolicited manuscript, a screenplay, anything like that, if it's got a self-addressed stamped envelope, you get it back. If not, garbage. That's it. I don't believe what's kept my books from being movies is that they haven't found the right, brilliant, insightful screenwriter. I don't think it's the problem. I think the problem is the material. But I'm not interested in encouraging anybody to produce anything. And if you're one of these young people in film school who've decided one of my short stories to make a perfect entry in this festival, save yourself the email. I'm not going to do it. I got a lot of good reasons for not doing it. If they don't appear to be good reasons to you, I'm sorry, but it's never going to happen.
Well, and the general rule of thumb is that you never send an unsolicited manuscript to anybody, and the stories of somebody actually having somebody read that, let alone read it and make something, is like winning the Powerball.
You know
right?
what? It's beyond that, because this fanfic nonsense has gotten out of control. So people feel free to write their own Burke stories, which they have. They wouldn't publish them because they're not completely insane, but they'll say they've written them, in some internet post like that. If you send an unsolicited manuscript of anything, I don't care if it's a book, a screenplay, whatever, over the transom, which is the term they used, you really mean into the shredder. No one's going to see it. I've heard mythology about it, but I've never known it to happen.
Right.
And it certainly isn't going to happen through me.
All right, Shannon from Detroit. Aside from Burke, which character from the series was your favorite and why?
No way to answer that. There's really no way, because I would have a reason for each one to be my favorite, and all reasons would be true. They're my family. I love them. I'm not going to say I love this one more than that one. It wouldn't be true. It just wouldn't be true.
Okay, Jay Shull asks, do you think karma had anything to do with the Astor Place Barnes & Noble closing after the debacle with your last appearance there? Now, fill us in about that. I don't know anything about that.
This is what happened. This is a very famous Barnes & Noble, way downtown in New York. Some might even say it was the Village. And it's huge. And I've been there many times. And the place always fills up. In fact, before, I don't remember, Maria, somebody I can always see at that place. And James and Shirley, I always expect to see at that place, but apparently they're too lazy to type a question. Well, Shirley's not lazy. James, I'm all responsible for this. Anyway, I always have a good time there. People come long distances to go there. For whatever reason on that particular night, by the time I got there, because I don't want to get there early and, just go through all that, there's all these people milling around on the sidewalk, angry, not people I know. And they're going like, there he is, like I just did something. And I start to walk inside. They said, what are you going in there for? I said, don't you understand? I mean, I'm doing an event tonight. He said, no, you're not. So I go inside, and it turns out that for an hour and a half, the personnel there have been telling people, no, it's a mistake. I'm not supposed to be there tonight. Go home. There were no posters in the window, nothing set up, nothing. Even though this was a scheduled event, and Barnes & Noble knew about it. So somebody somewhere, the most charitable thing I could say is dropped the ball. But the letters that I got, I drove all the way from Connecticut just for this to be told, you're not really appearing. I felt just horrible. So there was only, maybe 30, 40 people that came in late enough so that they could actually, I stayed around. I wasn't going to leave after that. But it was a miserable experience for everybody. And that Barnes & Noble, a month later, closed down. Now, I don't believe in karma, so I certainly can't think it was karma. But
you do believe in incompetence.
I hope if it's incompetence, I'm fine with it. If somebody had an agenda, I'm not so fine with it. I'll never know.
Okay. Here's one from Randall from Wayton, Arkansas. Are you familiar with the White House Boys story about the Florida School for Boys where homicidal beatings, rape, sexual slavery, and murder were common practice and covered up?
Yes. I am familiar with it to the extent that it's been reported. I'm not personally familiar with it. I have heard similar accounts regarding other training schools for boys. That's all I can tell you. I've not personally investigated the case. I am familiar with the story from the reporting that's been done on it.
Okay, stepping outside of the Burke series, here's one from Andreas from Sweden. What exactly happened at the end of Shella? Going to get my jacket. Was Ghost about to start working for the Secret Service?
Ghost was going back to get his jacket. Working for the Secret Service is beyond the bizarro world for Ghost. But there is somewhere in me there's a sequel to that. There's a second act to that. Shella's story is over. I'm not really sure that Ghost's story is over. But working for the government, I can absolutely, unequivocally guarantee you would never, ever occur, except in the involuntary way that he was drafted before. But actually going to work as a job, it's out of the question.
All right. Cam Hughes from The Rap Sheet. In writing a character like Burke, how did you juggle his nobility with his acts of savagery and cruelty?
We have had this question before.
Yeah, this is like
It's
Drive
very
Time Talk
familiar,
Radio.
isn't it?
I think we're
Yeah.
getting some repeats here, but
I
you
mean,
want to...
I understand why, because people who are just coming in from the West Coast won't have heard me answer these questions before. But so just be a shorter answer, and that is, I in no way consider Burke to be a noble person. So I acknowledge his acts of savagery, but don't see where there's any balance involved at all. The only balance he wants is to be centered in terms of himself, not in terms of some societal judgment of nobility.
Okay, the next one's a repeat, too. Can we go one more? There we go. BB in Portland says, recently I saw someone wearing a T-shirt that said, one pedophile, one bullet. I know what I felt and was wondering what your immediate impression would be.
I mean, look, if you're doing it, you're not wearing a T-shirt, right? So why wear the T-shirt? Because you wish somebody else would do it? That's a Starbucks guru to me. That's another one. One pedophile, one bullet. It's like something out of a really bad movie. Besides, I wouldn't shoot a pedophile. Get it straight. To be a pedophile is a state of mind. To be a predatory pedophile is conduct. You're going to shoot people for what they feel. You're going to run out of bullets. So I'm sure this guy feels it's a heroic statement about something. To me, he's making a fool of himself.
Do you wonder, sometimes people carry away the wrong impressions from what you write? I mean, I remember once you and I were walking out of a book signing and some shady-looking guy stops us and says to you, hey, if you really want to do something about this, come with me. And you just brush the guy clear off.
Sure.
But how much of that do you get?
Well, I got that he was a cop. But I get that kind of thing all the time. I get offers to do things all the time. I get people saying, just point them out to me. And I'm talking about people from foreign countries.
Yeah?
Yeah, oh yeah. It's people all the time. Some people are so consumed with rage that they haven't learned to focus it and channel it and narrow it and be specific and effective with it. And this is the God's honest truth. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to give Sky any publicity, but you know exactly what I'm talking about because he's from your state. This is a guy who used the wonderful Megan's Law lookup service to locate sex offenders, went to their houses, and killed them.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Okay. That guy wrote me fan letters from prison and expected, at least me, I would understand. And there was an exchange of several letters over a period of time. And finally, he wrote me, that letter that's supposed to be myth. By the time you read this, I'll be dead. And he wasn't kidding. So I got the letter. I opened it up. As soon as I read it, I made a phone call. He hung up in his cell. And actually didn't. He took a huge amount of pills where he got them, I don't know, inside the prison. Laid down, pulled the covers over his head like he was sleeping. Left the letter to me between the bars for pickup. And he was already dead when they picked up that letter and went through the system, and I got it.
Yeah, that's a horribly extreme example, but I just wonder how many of your readers can't maintain any kind of aesthetic distance.
I don't need them to maintain an aesthetic distance. I want them to be angry. I don't want them to go around blasting away at people they think. How would they even know? Because they saw it on TV?
Sure.
They looked it up on a website? That's really bad. If you're going to put, knowing what I just described is true, I mean, not a word of it is exaggerated. It's a literal truth. A man looked up sex offenders on one of these wonderful registries, went to their houses and blew them away, and never attempted to escape. I mean, he's quite pleased with what he did. What if somebody's got a name wrong on that website? And that really scares me. I'm not about vigilantism. And why anybody wants to paint me with that label is their problem. It's not mine. I've never advocated it, and I don't now.
So in this case, Megan's Law isn't just a joke. It's maybe something...
It's a dangerous joke.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, listen, Megan's Law is very dangerous. You know why? See, you think Megan's Law is there to protect you, but this is what really happens. You're playing catch in the front yard with your son, okay? Guy walks by and says, that kid's got an arm on him. You know, I played semi-pro ball for 15 years. I work with, I'll name a lot of different stars. You know, if that kid's got his mechanics down right, it could be a star. Now, you know, I have in my basement a whole throwing machine and targets and everything. If you'd like for me to work on them after school I might, you know. So you say, wait a minute, I don't know you. And he goes, check me out. Look me up on the sex offender registry. You'll see I'm clean. And fools do that. They actually go there like if you're not on it, that proves you're not a predatory freak. Nice. Exactly. Another reason why I'm not a fan of this law, which you've yet to show me has protected anybody.
Right.
Megan's Law is an excuse. It's basically telling the public, we should have held these guys in for life. We let them out, but don't worry, we'll give you a website.
Let's go to another question. This is from Doug Setter. Some returning soldiers from Afghanistan talk about how the Afghan police is in quotes, use boys for toys.
Okay.
How does the culture make this okay?
Doug Setter is a man I know, and he's a really experienced soldier that served in Kosovo. And he's a writer, too. I got to tell you that I don't believe in cultural defenses at all, ever. So we had an infamous case in New York where a man killed his wife because she was unfaithful and literally used that defense at trial. His culture required that his wife be killed. I don't think we have a right to impose culture on other people, but there is a human culture that lays out lines. You can't stone somebody to death for adultery and say it's cultural. I don't accept that. You can't mutilate the genitals of female children because it's our culture. I can't accept that. I can't accept violation of human beings as culturally acceptable. I also don't believe it is the culture any more than I believe that really psycho evangelical Christians who say that AIDS is God's punishment for homosexual are actual Christians. So I don't believe the people who do honor rapes are anything but rapists, or honor killings are anything but killers. They're simply doing what they want to do and engrafting a cultural mantle over it. I don't actually believe there's any culture that literally, true culture, that condones, supports, and encourages the brutalization and torture of other human beings. And if there is such a culture, it doesn't need to exist.
All right, we've got a question from Will from Chicago. Do you think the Nix Mary Brown case will start to change the way courts across the country look at the mother's culpability in standing by and letting her child be abused and or murdered?
Ask Lisa Steinberg. You know, what you're doing, Nix Mary Brown is a fairly recent case. Boyfriend beats the kid to death. Mother is more attached to the boyfriend than the kid, looks the other way, even participates. It's a fairly standard scenario. When it makes a headline and some yammermouth on TV says, oh, this person outrages me, like the other 10,000 kids it happened to don't, It's changed nothing. If you were around back then, you were one of those people who believed that the little Lisa case was going to change the way America looked at things. It doesn't. What it does is it changes media focus for a certain period of time, and then it goes away.
Well, tell me what you think the media can do, because I'm doing news now, and I hadn't for a long time, and I'd made friends with a CPS worker, and I used to be one, and I'm telling her, give me material so that I can get things in the paper that people need to know. What can journalists in general...
I know so many people that if they could find an honest journalist who would protect them, would give up information that would be literally Pulitzer Prize material. I know people that would give you information about child protective not-for-profits where the bosses are drawing down salaries that would take your breath away, that are actually public record, that nobody's looked at the public record. Any for-real caseworker who's been on the job 3-4 years could tell you there wouldn't be stories. Accounts of people who have literally said, I did X, Y, and Z to my own child and were never prosecuted. The stories are absolutely out there. It's the journalists aren't out there. The only real investigator, Nick Pileggi, if you don't know who he is, I feel bad. Because, see, if I say Goodfellas or Casino, oh, now you know who he is. That's were wonderful books of his that were made into movies. As books, they were magnificent. I'm not a movie critic. As books, they were magnificent. Nick was a crime journalist who covered crime for decades. He was the absolute best at it. The only one on a par with him would be Jack Olson. So, Nick got stories the way you're supposed to get stories.
You worked big.
He worked, and he then published what he could authenticate. Chips fall where they may. And you knew that if you said something was off the record to Nick, it stayed off the record. Today, I was talking to him not long ago. Name some investigative journalists today, and I'll show you an entertainment reporter. That far more interest in, whether Britney Spears did whatever to whoever, how many times and in what place, than there is in what you and I were just talking about.
Well, yeah, and it also occurred to me then that in at least one sense, CPS is kind of like CIA, and the only time you ever hear about them in the media is when they screw something up.
That's right.
And I've been trying to think about ways to change that.
Well, what commitment? It's your paper won't make the commitment, because you could go undercover as a CPS worker in a minute. You've been a CPS worker.
Sure.
You could disappear right into the system, come right back out and tell the truth. But your paper would have to say, yeah, we'll pay your salary for a couple of years. Your job is to be a CPS worker.
Fat chance from any paper doing that today. Well,
today is right.
Yeah.
Yesterday, no, it wasn't a fat chance.
Right.
Yesterday it was for real. Investigative journalism has no greater fan than me. That's the one thing I'm a fan of. And I don't have much to appreciate. I don't see much of it. Informing is not investigating. Okay? So if you're sitting at a desk and somebody calls and they have a beef with a politician and they air out his dirty laundry, that don't make you an investigative reporter.
Right.
So unless we develop what we say we want, we're not going to get it. Where's the minor league system for investigative reporters?
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, it used to, though. It used to be if you went to Northwestern, right, School of Journalism, you were working on a daily paper. And you were, if you were an investigative reporter, that was a natural step. When I ask people, name some reporters, you know their name? Stephen Glass, Jason Blair. Yeah.
The stars.
The grotesque, lying, conniving plagiarists. But they had movies made about them, and they're known. I guarantee you, walk into a Starbucks, say, name some journalists who are not entertainment reporters, and prepare to stick an ice pick in your eye.
I kind of feel like that. Let's get in a question from Chandra. What part of Burke's journey means the most to you?
The end. The end. The book ends with his last and finest interrogation. What you take away from that is up to you, but to me, that was the most important place I wanted to stop. I can't say more without, I'm not doing spoilers on it.
No, that's why the long, awkward pause, because I just finished the book, and I don't want to ruin anything for anybody else.
Well, you don't have to worry about it. There'll always be some idiot on Amazon whose idea of a review is to tell everybody, don't bother to buy the book, because I'll tell you everything that happens.
The public servant.
Many thanks, Tom.
Okay, Thomas Kruger says, Mr. Vachss, I agonized over this for a while, and I hope it's what I mean. How bent did you intend Burke to be? His perceptions are, teleprompter's moving slowly here, his perceptions are always his truth.
What do you mean by, this is what's awkward for me about doing this. I've done, I don't know how many gazillion book events. I do them the same way every time. I walk in a room, I tell the person who's ready to read an introduction, leave it alone, and I just say, okay, let's go. Mm-hmm. Got to throw whatever you got, I'll come back. I don't know what this gentleman means by bent.
I don't know. Maybe he's asking how reliable, you said Burke wasn't a narrator, but how reliable is he?
I think he's real reliable in that the truth he's telling is the truth that he sees. If you mean bent, that he's seeing things through a distorted filter, since he reveals the distortions, I don't know how that should bother you. I mean, he comes right out and says, I hate the state, I hate the government, I'm not a citizen, I'm not one of you. And if one of you comes where I live, if you're a trespasser, bring a body bag. He's not pretending to be a normal person.
No, and it sounds like some people have trouble coming to grips with his ambiguity.
Right, because they want the movies. They want a guy who puts on a different outfit and goes out and fights crime. It's not going to happen. Because this guy goes out and commits crimes.
Here's another one from Andreas from Sweden. According to Lloyd DeMoss, the history of childhood has been a nightmare from which we have only recently begun to awaken. Have you had a continuing interest in DeMoss's, this is bizarre, psychohistorical model, since you commented on him in the Journal of Psychology?
I commented on the universality of incest. That's what I commented on. I didn't comment on Lloyd DeMoss' body of work. I don't intend to comment on it now, nor have I ever indicated one way or the other interest or disinterest. I wrote a comment on the universality of incest that was published in that journal. That's it. Try not to bootstrap from that into a whole model for me.
Okay, here's a question from Susie. And let's do this like it's a Karnak thing, and I'm Ed McMahon. No, I'm Karnak. A gun. And the question is, what is on your nightstand these days?
What is on my nightstand these days as opposed to
Yeah, what's on your nightstand these days? I think she meant a book.
If you meant a book, nothing. I don't read myself to sleep. I don't do that. What's on my nightstand are the usual tools you'd expect someone in my profession to have close at hand. Books are not one of them.
Okay. Heiner from the Zero List asks, Public Prosecutor Peter Vogt, one of the leaders of the greatest operation against child pornography, codenamed Marcy 38, says in an interview, child pornography is like a hydra.
What country is this?
I don't know.
It's not American. But go ahead.
It's like a hydra. You chop one head off, then two heads will grow. I think we've lost the fight against child pornography. Do you think that this pessimistic view is right, or are there other successful weapons or tactics?
I don't think it's a pessimistic view. I think it's a lame-brained at best and cowardly at worst view. If you're going to say we lost the fight, what's the next deal? We're going to decriminalize it and say, hey, it's okay? We haven't lost the fight because we never started the damn fight. There are many weapons available that we have not utilized because the United States government is busy allocating pork. If I could just have the pork that the federal government gives away every year, I'll show you a war against child pornography that you wouldn't believe. But what war? Who's fighting it? Predator hunter on Dateline? If they're the soldiers, we have lost. But I don't, for a minute, agree that we've used anything like the resources that are actually available to fight. Because child pornography, the evil of child pornography is real simple. You have to rape a child to produce it. So until we have asset forfeiture laws, until we have international treaties so we can get a search warrant for a server in Estonia, until we make foreign aid dependent on cooperation, there's all kinds of things we could do. Unlike the bogus war on drugs, which we clearly are all POWs in, we could win this one. We could absolutely win this one. But it's not being fought, so please don't tell me we lost.
Okay, here's one from Milt Rowland. He says, I've followed your growth as a writer for 2 decades and have watched you find your voice. What novel reflects the greatest growth spurt as a writer? What's your best written, toughest novel?
Damn. I mean, my beloved orphan book has always been Sheldon. And the book I like best, actually, is Two Trains Running, because it's, it really says what I feel about journalism. But beyond that, I don't have, writerish kind of goals. So I wouldn't like a book because it was better written than another book. I try and get better every time I write, just like I try and get better every time I take on a case. It's work, and you want to be the best you can at it. You should learn from experience, that's all.
Okay, Frances, who says she's been a fan since '98. Now that the Burke series is over, will that free you up to 2 or more to spread the word about abuse to children?
It's the Burke series that gave me that opportunity. If you mean, am I going to speak at prevent child abuse conventions? Probably not. My track record is each organization invites me to speak and doesn't invite me back. So after a while, you run through all the organizations. I can go on a tour to talk about it, but I don't see the point. You know about it. The era of consciousness raising is over. What was considered fantasy and myth and horror stories 25 years ago is common daily fare now in terms of public recognition. Could you find a person in America to say, there's no such thing as child abuse? So what would the tour be about? It's got to be that shift. When people say, I want solutions bad enough that I'll put my vote on it, that there'll be change. Otherwise, what's the point of touring? I'm not interested in making people aware of something that unless they're comatose, they should be aware of.
All right. Here's one more question from Mark. Do you believe that the election of Barack Obama, I guess we'll have to wait for the
I believe he was elected,
Do you believe it represents a real change in American culture as regards race, or were things simply bad enough to counter the Bradley effect? Do you believe in the Bradley effect?
You know what? I will say I don't think the Republicans did their best to win this election. And I can understand that strategy because no matter what President Obama's intentions are, anyone who thinks he could turn this economy around in 3-4 years is seriously brain damaged. So it may be that the Republican strategy hasn't changed at all. Let somebody else take the weight for what we did. I don't know. I don't know Barack Obama. He doesn't represent any change to me. The fact that he's a person of color doesn't mean anything to me because you had to be a candidate before you got elected. So it isn't as if the American public wasn't ready for a leader who was non-white. It's that the American political bosses didn't say it was okay. So I don't know that it represents change at all. What, they're going to do different music at the inauguration? What? I'll believe change when I see it. It's as simple as that. If his behavior has changed, I'll believe it. If not, I won't.
You had an observation from Burke in another life about Hillary and Obama canceling each other out.
Yeah.
Can you go through that?
Must I? I mean, what I said was it looked, well, what Burke said, actually what the prof said, was it looked to him like nobody wanted to win the election. Because the Republicans clearly were going to lose no matter who they ran because of the overlap from Bush. There's never been an election in American history that I know of where people from a party who was now in power would run on a "I'm not him" campaign, which is exactly what they did. To be photographed with Bush was not the ticket to paradise if you're running. But the truth is, what the prof said, the only thing the Democrats could possibly do to screw up their chances more would be if it turned out Obama was half Jewish and Hillary jumped all the way out of the closet. But in fact, they couldn't screw it up. They did their best to lose this election. The Democrats did their best to absolutely snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory. But since the Republicans were not putting in any effort and indeed hoping to lose, this is a default decision. I'm not ready to treat it as historic yet. I'm looking at it more like, we don't want to be blamed for this. One of you guys want to be president, you get blamed for it. So the next 4 years will tell us whether it's historic or not, but the election in and of itself doesn't tell me a thing.
Okay, here's our last question for the 3 hours.
For the whole thing?
For the whole thing.
Okay,
you
that'd
ready?
be a good one.
Let's see if I can pronounce this guy's name. This is from Achim Ulf. And it's in German.
So do your best with it.
Just say Schnell and move to this other
No,
one.
that's not fair.
I can't read that.
You can read it phonetically.
Well, this is going to embarrass us both.
Just take a shot. I bet I can figure it out.
Wann erscheinen die englischsprachigen Roman auf Deutsch? How was that?
That's fine.
Yeah, you
When
like
is
that?
there going to be another Burke novel in German?
I'm a genius. Look at what I just did.
Yeah, and the answer is, I don't know, pal. I've been through, the biggest publishers in Germany. I've tried small independent publishers in Germany, but the rule that I have about foreign publication is I want to have a home. I don't want to be jumping from publisher to publisher. When a German publisher is ready to make the commitment, and believe me, this is not about money, but what I got to have is approval of the cover. I'm not going to have slime on the cover of any of my books. You make me an offer, a no-money offer, I'll get paid in royalties. It's not about money, but I got to have a home. I don't want to put one Burke book with this publisher, one Burke book with that publisher. It won't work. I'm about 6-7 books behind in Germany. I get questions like yours every day. I give them the same honest answer. No more Burke in Germany until I find a home for him.
Well, and control is another thing, because you've shown me a couple of the unpleasant surprises you've gotten with covers that suggest that the people printing the books and designing the covers hadn't read the books.
Yeah, it's not a joke when I say cover approval. It's not some little affectation I have. People in other countries have put covers on the books that make a travesty of everything I've tried to do in my life. I would be profoundly ashamed if those books were published. So either I get cover control or I wouldn't do it. That's it, right?
If that's the end of the 3 hours,
Are we done?
have you anything?
You want me to wrap it up? I can see how astute I am?
Well done.
Okay, and here it is. Only you know if this worked. It's that simple. There's no way I could have gone to 500 cities. There was no way I was going to close the Burke show by going to 30 cities and leaving out everybody else. Whether this worked or not is dependent on one thing. Whether you feel you got a fair hearing, whether you feel like I answered your questions honestly and you had a shot to ask them. If that's what you feel, then this succeeded. If you feel ripped off in any way, it's on me, because this was my idea, okay? This was the best way all of us could think of to close out this show, small d, as democratically as possible. If you stuck with us for 3 hours, bless you. If you got a piece of it, thank you. I hope it worked, and good night.